Welcome to the Kansas Alliance for Wetlands and Streams, Franklin County Conservation District, and Upper Wakarusa RAPS video, in which Caitlin Gibbons, our Regional Conservation Agronomist, is carrying out a wet soil aggregate stability test. Soil samples for this test are taken at our cover crop planting method comparison field. As Caitlin will demonstrate, this is an easy test that can be completed at home at practically no cost.
I'm Caitlin Gibbons, and I am the local conservation agronomist, and I am working with the team on the cover crop study on the Clinton Lake Wildlife Area, and we are doing a aggregate stability test today. And we've already, so what we did is we went out to the field, and for each different seeding method in our control, we pulled the top 2 inches of soil and put it in these baggies, and we did 5 replications per each seeding method. So you can see the control area, interseeding by hand, interseeding at maturity, broadcast with incorporation, and then just broadcast post-harvest, and then drilling the cover crop post-harvest.
This is the field layout for 5 different planting methods and timing for planting covers in the field. The 5 different areas shown are interseeding mid-season, interseeding near harvest, broadcast seeding post-harvest, broadcasting post-harvest with mechanical incorporation, and drilling following harvest. We also left an area with no cover crop seeding to serve as our control area for comparison purposes. 5 samples were drawn from each area in order to get a good representation for a baseline test of wet aggregate stability, which is an indicator of the soil's ability to store moisture. We plan to repeat this sampling process and do another test after we've carried out these cover crop comparisons over the next 3 years.
We picked an area of the field to start with, and we chose the 3 of each field, and that kind of represents the middle of the field. That way we're not getting into the indrows and compaction and things like that. So now what we're doing is we're moving on and taking a sample from the 4th bag of each letter. And so we already did the 4th bag for the control, and as you can see with this test, I'll kind of show you what we're going to do and what to expect. So we're going to do the hand seed now and do the aggregate test for it. So what you do is you take some soil and you just loosely break it up, not enough to alter the soil structure, and you fill this strainer up, just loosely, making sure you're not altering the structure. And then once you have it about filled up, then you place it in water to saturate it for roughly 30 seconds, and you make sure that you get all the soil particles saturated, and then you remove it from the water and kind of shake off the excess water. And then from there, you flip it onto your piece of paper, kind of like you would if you were making like a sandcastle. And from there, we can compare the 2 aggregate stabilities of the control and then the interseeding at the V8 stage. So what we're going to do is we can kind of take our finger and move it around, and if it resembles more like a pudding, it shows a poorer aggregation in the soil, showing that the soil particles aren't holding the water inside them. But if we come over here to the interseeding one, you can see that this soil structure more resembles like a moist cake, and it's got better structure, and you can see if you break some of it apart, you can see that it is holding the water better. And we'll just go down the line comparing these. This one has a lot better aggregate stability. You can see that it's really resembles kind of like a nice moist cake. It's not too moist that it's pudding in it. The water is staying in the soil structure well. And these as well are very similar. And then down here at the drilled treatment, you can see that it's not as as well, and it's kind of resembling pudding. So that is the aggregate stability test.
Here's a closer look at the different sample tests. One thing you might notice is that even though the soil types were the same for the multiple sample areas within the field, you can see different soil moisture holding capabilities from one area to another. You can especially see this between the interseeded areas and the control area. So just to make sure these differences were not caused by anything we did when we ran the test, we reran the test, and what we got were very similar results. And that's what you're seeing here. So even though soils can be consistent, soil moisture holding capabilities can be very different throughout the field. For this test and the others, we have marked the location of each sample pulled, and this will allow us to make a one-to-one comparison when we draw our samples at the end of the 3-year period in which we're carrying out this cover crop planting method comparison.